Welcome guys and gals. Today I'm going to show you what's new in Focus Cards version 1.1, and I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to want to do after you update the box on your Focus powered website. Alright, so let's dive in. So we're going to assume that you've just updated the box, and the first thing you want to do is visit the settings page for Focus Cards. So we'll do that. And you'll notice that I've rearranged the options a little bit. I've actually added a new option, which you'll be interested in, which is called Card Grid Display. I'll show you what this does in just a moment. I've organized all of the design-based, design-related options down here under the Design Options section. So all the stuff that's going to change the way your cards look, colors, fonts, spacing, presentation, that stuff is going to be down here. But these are probably the options most relevant to you most of the time, changing the behavior of cards, that type of thing. So first thing you're going to want to do, regardless, just check the options you've set here, make sure they're all to your liking, and then be sure to click the green button here, Save Focus Cards. And what that's going to do is that's going to write the updated styles that are in version 1.1. It's going to write those to your Focus style sheet and make it so that your cards receive these new styles on your actual website. So let's take a look at what those are real quick. In addition to the reorganized settings, the real good stuff is the way I've changed the responsive behavior of cards that you present in a grid. Okay, so if you've been using the grid output, I mean, this is sort of the essence of what cards are. I'll show you on my DIYthemes website. One card by itself is cool, you make it, it looks like this, but really the magic of cards is in having multiple cards in a single presentation and then presenting them like this. Two across horizontally, three across, that type of thing. That's what makes this display element look cool and what makes it sort of useful and compelling. And so that is the major changes I've made in this version deal with how your card grids are handled in responsive layouts. So let's take a look at that real quick, or responsive environments, I should say. So I will do a little demonstration here. So in the previous version, version 1.0 of Focus Cards functionality, if you were to drag, make the window viewport smaller, and you had 4 across, let's say, just like we have here, no matter what size the viewport was, even if it was tiny, you would have had 4 cards presented across. Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that at very small, narrow viewports, you've got very narrow cards that are completely unusable. Text doesn't even fit in them. It loses all meaning. The pictures become very small. It's just, the implication there is that there is a minimum width where your cards make sense, and then, anything less than that, they no longer make sense, they don't look right, they don't work. And so what was necessary to, what needed to happen was to have some responsive treatments that honor the content that's in your cards and ensures that it's never too narrow for what is in there. Now in version 1.0, I did some research on this and some testing and couldn't come up with a suitable way to do that. And so the way I had expressed in the forums, I said, hey, just stop in, show me your exact situation, and I will give you the custom CSS you need to make your cards work. That was before I did even more testing and research and found out that I could basically approximate what needed to happen for you, whether or not you had 4 cards across, 3 across, or even 2 across. I was able to add some CSS that handles this stuff really smartly. You can kind of see it in action here. The 4 cards breaks down into 3 with the 4th one underneath, and then 2, and then eventually 1. But the range of widths that the cards go through is much narrower than it was in version 1.0. So now there's not too big of a change even in the different viewports. Like I think this one, let's see, we'll just examine for the heck of it here. This one is currently, let's see, 356 pixels wide right now, and then when it's really small like this, it is, I'm not seeing the number here. Well, Usually it will tell me what the number is, but suffice it to say, the width range, the differences in width between your cards and different viewports is smaller now. So what version 1.1 has done, or what I've done with version 1.1 with the CSS, I've made, your cards might be between 300 and 500 pixels wide now in the various viewports, as they adapt to whatever, whatever the medium is. Whereas before, your cards went from a width of basically 0 all the way up to however wide they could be based on your setting. So now there's a much tighter range there. So that means when you design your cards the first time, they're pretty much going to stay true to what they look like and at every step along the way. So you're not going to have to do any massaging in various viewports, in different responsive views. There's going to be a lot less need for that, possibly zero need in most cases now with the styles in Focus Cards 1.1. Okay, so we've got that with the 4 cards. It devolves into 3 cards across, then 2, and then 1. With 3, you go from 3 to 2 to 1. And, so basically when you say, hey, give me a grid of 3, it's going to give you the 3 cards across in the largest viewports, and then any viewports that are too small to accommodate 3 cards across, it's going to allow 2 and then ultimately 1. So here's the 1, and then the 2 is beneath it. So they get stacked vertically when there's not enough room for them horizontally. And that's the way we deal with responsive treatments. It's the same is true for the 2 cards across. They'll take up the full width, and then when there's not enough room for them, they'll shrink to a suitable size, and then they go to the vertical orientation. Okay, so this is really the biggest change in version 1.1, the most important thing for you guys. You will not need to apply any custom CSS to handle your specific cards and responsive views, no matter what kind of image sizes you're using or what your content is in the cards. This stuff's going to adapt, and it should be great for you in every viewport. And if it's not, you can drop in the forums, and I can give you a custom CSS you need for a little spot fix for some sort of idiosyncratic type of card that you might have that you feel like doesn't look right in a certain view. But like I said, this should cover pretty much like 95% plus of all your use cases, and you don't have to do anything. It's perfect. So that's a great little bonus from this update. The next thing that I know you're going to love, I didn't even realize this was a thing actually, but we can get all these cards that show in a row, like one row across like this. We can get them all to have the same effective height so that there's not this little weird difference of one being shorter than the others or one being longer like this. This one's a little wonky obviously, and then these two are not identical either. But in Focus Cards 1.1, we have a new option for card grid display, and you can select for your cards in each row to have equal heights instead of having their natural heights, which is what we see here. This is the cards just being presented with their natural heights. But if we do the equal height option and save it, go over here, we will see that now the cards in each row all have the same effective height. This is useful for layouting purposes if you're the type of person who wants to keep everything, if you like your horizontal lines being all the same, your vertical lines being the same, that sort of thing, you're very organized, you like those straight lines. This is a way to achieve that. With any time you want to output your cards, you can achieve this. You just use the equal height option there. You'll probably just want to leave it like that, honestly. I think this is a pretty great solution. Next, so when we have card grids, so when we're using the card group shortcode to display more than one card, and we say that we want them in a grid, previously it was necessary to add a parameter. I'll show you what it is here. To your shortcode, you would have had to say wrap equals extend, and the reason we would have done that is if you just did it if you just stuck your shortcode in your content, your cards would only take up the width, the content width, this content column. But we have a lot more usable space on the website, especially in larger viewports. It'd be nice if we just use that entire space that's available to us rather than having to take some action and say, hey, use the space. Like, it's obvious if you're going to be outputting a grid, you probably want to use all the available space. This used to be, like I said, in version 1.0, you had to add this wrap extend parameter. Version 1.1, we're getting rid of that. That parameter no longer works, does nothing. If you specify a grid of 2, 3, or 4, Focus Cards smartly is just going to say, hey, I know that if you do this, you're going to want to use all the available space. So it goes ahead and does that for you. You don't have to do that anymore. On the off chance that you don't want to use up all that real estate, we have the opposite of basically the shortcode or the parameter we had before. Now you can just say, for like these two, for example, let's just say these two, I just want them to show within the width of the content column. Now we can add a parameter constrain equals 1, and that will constrain that output to the width of the content column. I'll hit refresh and we will see it. Boom. Now these two, you see how they are now displaying the width of the content column. Again, this is probably not what you're ever going to want. If you're outputting in a grid, you probably want to use all available real estate. And so that is now the operating assumption for Focus Cards 1.1. It says, hey, you probably want to do it. I'll just go ahead and do that for you. So that's a nice little convenience. If you've been using the wrap parameter, you don't have to go back through all your other posts or whatever your content and delete it. It's just not recognized anymore. It has no effect. Let's see. And then last but not least, I have one more feature for you guys. Well, actually, I've got some WordPress 5.5 compatibility. That's a nothing. No one has to think about that. That's baked in. And then the last thing is I've added this new feature for a subtitle, which you may have noticed on this thesis card here. Here it is in action a little bit wider. And if you want to add, you can add a subtitle to any card now. You just go in, we go in and edit our cards. We're going to go all focus cards. We're going to go into our thesis card. And you'll see down here under focus card options, you now have a card subtitle text field. And notably, this field accepts links. So you can put a link in there only if you have not done a link for the entire card. But if you have not linked the entire card, you can even put links in here. You can put like strong tags if you want to make some text bold. So you got options for actually spicing this up a little bit if you do want to use a subtitle. Focus Cards is very smart. It knows how to adapt the spacing and all this stuff. If you are using the subtitle or not, it will make room for it. It will all look perfect in all the different views. So, you know, it's just sort of a thing. If you want to add it, it's going to come out looking great for you every time. So that's a new thing as well. In addition, the very last thing is I have tweaked all the spacing. Previously, the spacing around titles and, you know, like under the subtitle, for example, once I put all this together, it wasn't perfect. But now I've gone through and made that, you know, gone through the painstaking detail of making all that stuff absolutely perfect. So that's what you can expect to find in Focus Cards 1.1. So I'm super excited about this new release just because all the stuff that's now done for you, it's sort of no-brainer, absolutely. Now I think we're getting closer to that nice operating state that's super intuitive where you just do the basic thing and you get the results that you were looking for without having to make even one little, you know, painless modification. Now it's all just done for you. It's all, I call this valet software services. So that's what you're going to get with Focus Cards 1.1. And you know what? Stop by the forums and show me your cards, please. I'd love to see what you guys are doing with them out in the wild, all right? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.